I've realised within the white community, when it comes to ginger people, they're pretty much black. We're very much alike.
It all makes sense.
I just need to remind y'all again, everyone who is ginger, who has red hair, those are black people.
Black community literally saved my physical life.
I have so many emotions right now. I can't even process them. The last 48 hours of my life, I've never felt more loved in my life.
I did not have Redheads being black on my bingo card for social commentary in 2025. But here we are. Here we are. So if you've been on TikTok recently, you might have seen that there's a large number of black people who have been discussing this theory about redheads being black people.
It all makes sense. The whole life makes sense.
And most of it has been very banterful. But what isn't a joke is some people's reactions.
What did y'all do to gingers? Because ever since that lady said all gingers are black people, there's gingers on my For You page with tears sobbing down their eyes like they haven't slept in years, talking about I've never felt this loved before. What did y'all do?
And I don't know how I feel. So here are some of the reasons why people have said that redhead people are black. I'm laughing because it's just such a ridiculous conversation, but there's also so much analysis that can be done with this and that we will get into, which I'm really looking forward to because, I love a video essay and, I love a bit of social commentary and analysis. Here are some of the reasons that people have said that redheads are black.
Why are gingers now considered black people? I am going to give you all the reasons as to why based on my own research. However, a quick disclaimer before we begin, I am in no way comparing what black people have to experience to redheads because it is just not the same. These are some definite similarities we both face. Starting off, the way that we are very similar is people unprovoked will be on the street, someone called Kelly wanting to touch our hair. This happens to redheads. It also happens to black people. Number 2, underrepresentation. I never had a Barbie doll growing up who looked like me. There rarely anyone in the media who looked like me. This is the experience that redheads face, but also black people. Number 3, the outcast. Now, me as a child, I felt like I never belonged. I always felt like I was the odd one out. I feel like that is a feeling that redheads often face, but also black people. Number 4, history. Redheads were often hated in history purely on our hair colour, and this is evident from redheads, but also black people. And finally, the sexualization of redheads is crazy. I was 11 years old, walking home from school, having questions asked about my pubic hair. Crazy. This happens to redheads, but it also happens to black people. Now this brings us together, the redheads, black community. This unites us. This is why we make a great pairing.
And most of these reasons kind of range from jovial to actual reasons that are really trying to justify why we should essentially accept redhead people into the black community because they experience a similar struggle. So these kind of explanations have varied. Some have been a joke and then others have been kind of think pieces as to why this is the case. And one thing that I found that I thought was particularly interesting was a lot of the commentary was from redhead people responding, which I thought was particularly interesting because I feel that with a lot of conversations on like TikTok, we kind of have these conversations among ourselves and within our community. And when they do escape our community, there's kind of a sense of sensitivity when touching the topic or just outright ignorance where they just completely kind of disregard our perspective. And it's a very kind of one-sided narrative that's anti whatever Black TikTok have said. But this kind of gray area where we have essentially empowered allies to speak on our behalf and claim to be a part of our community is a really interesting take, because as I was scrolling through TikTok after searching this topic, my TikTok search, It's gonna be so ridiculous after this. My algorithm it's already messed up, to be honest, just from creating this channel, so I can't even complain. But anyway, so just when I was scrolling through, I just noticed like an overwhelming amount of the posts being from redhead people, like defending why this is true. Or there was one man who was really passionate about it, actually, concerningly so. And then other people where there were other videos where there's like redheads dissecting parallels between the black community and redheads and all of these things. And I just thought this is very interesting because what we've now created is a dynamic where we've kind of empowered and given permission for, calling a spade, white people to speak on behalf of how black people should identify and who they should and shouldn't allow into their community, and also allowing and empowering white people, calling a spade, to essentially speak on the behalf of members of the black community, generalize, but also giving them the pen to be able to define what blackness is and why they fit into it. And I'm sure you can probably tell why that's just a little problematic. Where the conversation leans from it just being funny and conversations around media and how they're an integral part of black television and black TV and film and how we just go together, you know, especially when it comes to characters that we see on the screen. And then it goes into where we're ridding people with red hair of their whiteness when they are white. So if it isn't already obvious, much of this has been a joke. But the question is, how far does this joke go? And as I've mentioned, the power has shifted from conversation among black people to essentially handing the power to red-headed people to have a platform in conversations when it pertains to the black community and what it means to be black. And that shift in power, while funny when it remains in our own hands and we can control this narrative, doesn't become as funny when it is a conversation that leans towards appeasing white narratives and white guilt, especially when we think about what we're just overcoming, which we're just coming, you know, moving past, which is that crazy era of Vine based on stereotypes of blackness and jokes about, you know, a white guy eats his chicken to the bone. Oh, you know, look, he's more black than me. Or, you know, these kind of conversations. We've just about overcome that narrative. We've finally looked at that narrative, understood that it's degrading. It's kind of like the blackface of modern comedy. We finally, you know, found the terms for that, articulated why that wasn't okay and why we don't want to keep doing that. And here we are, how many years after Vine is finished, and we've finally just, you know, been able to put into words why that was such a problematic era. Here we are, stirring up the pot to create another form of comedy, which is about this joke of stereotypes between black and white people and how when white people are X, Y, Z, they're a bit more black. You know? You know what? You see where I'm going with this? So that's just on a surface level in terms of the it's just a joke conversations. Well, I genuinely, you've seen me smiling in this video. I did find the topic to be quite funny. When I saw it come up, I was just thought it was ridiculous. And then when I searched it and saw what the conversation was turning into and what it was, the kind of humor and the kind of discourse that it was inviting from people outside of our community, then I flagged, okay, this is why we can't joke with you. This is why we can't have nothing. This is why we can't have nothing. This is why we have to keep our jokes to ourselves, okay? Because it just enables a whole different conversation in the realm of jokes that we just, a Pandora's box, a can of worms that we do not want to open again. We've just about discarded. So, but let's talk about how historically the conversation around welcoming non-black people into the black community has been a very problematic issue, especially as it pertains to non-black people reaping the benefits of blackness while essentially leeching off of our culture and our sense of community.
All gingers are black. Where was this energy for Halle Bailey when she was Ariel, though? Lock the doors and bar the gates, because I don't remember a single ginger person calling Halle cousin. I remember them saying, not my Ariel. Not My Little Mermaid. They were the most pressed group of people harassing this young woman online all over social media, berating her. Okay, so I know people are gonna say it's a joke, Melissa. Take a joke. You're being so serious. When you give people an inch, they're gonna take a mile. And you know what? This trend is very telling because if you ask a non-black person what their favorite thing is about black people, you know what they're gonna say? They're gonna say, "Oh, I love that they're great hype people. They make me feel cool." It's all about how black people embrace them and they love it, right? But the embracing doesn't go the other way around. You have people that want and love to be welcomed to black spaces, but they don't want to welcome black people into their spaces.
Black people we're often accused of being hypersensitive when it comes to playing the race card. And if you are curious as to why I've referred to it as a myth, I would really encourage you to read Akala's Natives. It's such a great book. It talks about conversations of being black in Britain, in the UK. It's a conversation that is so necessary with the hypervisibility of American media. Our perception of blackness is very much centered around American narratives. So I think it's so healthy and really great for everyone, not just Brits, to read about race relations in other parts of the world. I think it would really help to put into perspective what we're experiencing and also allow us to be able to kind of have a further sense of empathy and understanding of the extent of colonization. And from my ongoing experiences of racial issues from studying and living in London, Bath and Essex, I really had to learn very quickly that the same white people who love being in predominantly black spaces or predominantly black circles, having predominantly black friends, can also be the first people to drop us at the first minor inconvenience. So why are we so quick to accept people into our community when we historically haven't been offered the same privilege? Why do we keep welcoming people into our house who we're fed up of stealing from us? Metaphorically, culturally. Worse still, when we flip the cards and consider the connotations of when black people are perceived as white, there are almost always some kind of negative reason that either doesn't make them black enough because of their views, whether it's because of their views that might pander to whiteness, or worse still, because of positive traits like being articulate and educated that are seen as negative and more synonymous with whiteness, which is highly problematic. This implies and indicates that there's an entry requirement to being black, which indirectly characterizes blackness by a range of unfounded stereotypes and narratives which we are actively trying to get rid of, which I talk about a lot on my channel. However, when a white person is perceived to be black or more black, this is often because of a stereotype hegemonic to what it means to be black, and this often revolves around how they dance, how they sing, how they speak, or, in the case of redheads, in this conversation, being oppressed. But these all narrow down into a limiting lens of what it means to be black, which through these jokes were actively encouraging white people to participate in enabling and perpetuating stereotypes of blackness, which feels very regressive, even for TikTok. So inviting every white person that might do a little 1-2 step, a little azonto to the cookout, okay? It's not gonna benefit you in any way. Let me tell you why. All right. And if you don't know what the cookout is, it's essentially a hypothetical environment. It's a hypothetical family function where friends and family are invited. It's not a barbecue. It's like a grill. It's like a whole vibe, right? It's reminiscent of so many different aspects. It's specifically in this context a Black American reference, but it's also reminiscent of so many African diasporic gatherings that are centered around food and community, and what that means to be community is essentially you are part of our tribe, and that is very much something that we protect and something that means a lot to us. So we are very protective of our tribe and our space. So we invite everyone to the cookout, okay? Then it diminishes what it means for us to have this sense of community among ourselves. It's like, and some people do this, I guess, but it's like opening the doors of your house every time you're having dinner with your family and allowing anyone to just wander around. Not for the sake of charity, but just because you thought it would be fun. Does that sound stupid to you? And it only leads to many white people having a false sense of entitlement to our culture and ethnicity that we have so tiresomely had to overcome to so much to preserve. Historically, our welcoming and invited nature has not been reciprocated and has left us and led us to the disruption and downgrading of our culture, values, community, and food. Have you seen Sinners? If you haven't, you should. Don't let them in. Don't let them in. Until we create clear boundaries of not entertaining white people perpetuating damaging stereotypes by giving them a pass, we can expect a resurgence of the blackface comedy of Vine. Yeah, it's coming back. It's coming back if you want it to. If you want it to. Because if you invite every Tom, Dick, and Harry on the street to your cookout, don't be surprised when they steal a load of your shit and sell it on TV for $1 million.
Tire marks. Finish line with fire marks. When I win, I make up like she got hoes on call. Got hoes on call to come through, take a protocol. Just damage it, that's my protocol. These many Australians on source and no camera. I don't care you all, no killer rap, gotta give me.
God forbid someone who you said was black uses the black culture. Anyway, so in conclusion, I personally find this discourse to be very silly and actually very ridiculous, but I do find there to be something interesting about the fact that people will recognize how restrictive it often feels as a black person to be accepted in black spaces, be it because of the way we wear our hair, whether our hair's not laid enough or for being too ashy, and all of these things, all of these issues that make black people be perceived as less black. And I go into that really extensively into my channel of what it means to be black, this concept of acting white, the concept of the sellout or someone who's not white enough, the Oreo, and all of these things, black enough for the Oreo, all those things. However, as soon as a white person does one thing nice, right? One thing correct, one thing friendly, one thing slightly leaning towards or reminiscent of aspects of our culture, they're invited to the cookout. Like, our own cousins aren't even feeling welcome in the cookout for our own restrictive anti-black narratives that we perpetuate onto each other. Yet we're welcoming people from the streets. We embedded. We're so quick to chuck a dashiki on Gary from next door when our cousin upstairs is still being called a white girl for not having rhythm. What is going on? You guys just chuck a kente cloth on any Tom, Dick, and Harry and call it a black man. I'm curious anyway. It doesn't make sense to me, but I'm curious to hear your thoughts, okay? I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. And I love hearing you guys' perspectives. You always have the most insightful perspectives. I learn so much from reading the comments. So please do comment. Be sure to subscribe. If you haven't already, you need to subscribe right now, okay? Because we have a lot of conversations on social commentary. And I think you'll really enjoy my channel. I really do. All right, guys. Love you. Bye.